Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. We will be starting with a new series where I will create a news app. I said series because the project is quite big, so it will take around 6 videos to complete it. Okay? Also, we will be covering 5 major advanced topics such as mvvm, retrofit, navigation component, coroutines, and room database in one single project. So I will highly recommend to do a revision of each topic before starting with the project. Link in the description box. Alright, let's have a look at the demo. This is how it looks. I have kept the project very minimal and functional. We have a bottom navigation with 3 categories: headlines, favorites, and search. As you can see in headlines, all the latest news are shown here. All of them are fetched from News API in real time. You can even click on it and see it opens up the article in a web view. Great, right? You can scroll through it and also you can save it in your favorite section by clicking on this floating action button. Look, it's saved here in favorites. Not just that, but you can also remove it from favorites by swiping it. And also you can undo it as well. Cool, right? Then go to search section. Here you can literally search anything. It will come up with the results. See, there it is. All of this might look very easy to you, and it is indeed very easy. It's just that we have to write a lot of code for it. Now let's go into the technical side of it. To display all these articles, we are using News API, which I'll show you later. So with the help of that, it fetches the real-time data or news and display it on the recycler view. Then with the help of web view, we can open the article in the app itself without going to any browser. Then by clicking on add to favorite, that particular article gets saved in room database. So what you see here, this is all saved in room database. Hence later whenever you will open the app again, they will be still here. Lastly, search uses API only, and other topics like mvvm will help us to make the project organized and segregated in model, view and ViewModel. Not just that, but also navigation component will help us to navigate from one screen to another screen effortlessly. So I guess that was a lot of overview. Now let's dive into the project. As this is the first video, so we will just cover the prerequisites and XML design. Later in upcoming video, we will implement the logic. Also, I'll be providing you with all the layouts design code so that you don't have to waste your time in designing part. But don't directly jump onto the code. First see how I do it step by step, and accordingly you can do it too. Okay? Now open Android Studio. Choose empty views activity. Name the activity as the news app. And click on finish. First, let's start with colors. So go to colors.xml. Here I'll add 2 colors. One is purple, whose AX code is 593C8F. Second is yellow, whose hex code is FFC000. And that's it. Next, go to themes.xml. Here I'll uncomment this line and write the color as purple. Then duplicate this line and write item name as color primary variant. Then next write the item name as Android status bar color. And that's it. Now, as we are using bottom navigation, so there is a concept called as active indicator, which means on whichever fragment we are on, the icon will be highlighted with an indicator, like this way. But by default, it's white color, and I want it to be yellow. Hence, here I need to create a custom theme for active indicator. Got it? So let me write the code first. And then, see, we have given a name as app.custom.indicator and parent as active indicator, obviously. Then I have set the color as yellow, and that's it. our theme is ready. Next, our bottom menu needs 3 icons, right? So let's add them in the drawable folder. First is language, which will act as an headlines icon. Second is favorites. And third is search. And done. Next, as we will be creating a search bar, so for that we will require a border around it. So let's create it. Create a new drawable resource file. Name it as search border. As it's a border, so we will create a stroke of color purple. And with 2 dp. Then corners of 14 dp. And that's it. Next, as we will be using multiple concepts like retrofit, mvvm, room database, and many more, so obviously we will require their dependencies, right? Let's include them in a Gradle. First, go to Gradle project. I have mentioned all the plugins and dependency in the source code, so you can copy paste it from there. Here, class path, this is for navigation component. Then a plugin as DevTools KSP. KSP stands for Kotlin Symbol Processing. It's a better and an alternative way of KAPT plugin because it's 2 times faster than KAPT when it comes to analyzing the Kotlin code. Have a look over here. Even the official documentation recommends to migrate from KAPT to KSP. You can go through it later. Do not click on sync now, okay? Then go to build Gradle module. Here add KSP plugin and navigation component plugin. Then compile SDK34. Then add view binding as well. Then lastly, add all the dependency and done. See, this is for ViewModel, this is for room database, then this is for coroutines, then for retrofit, then navigation component, and then lastly for glide. Glide is used for image processing as we have images that needs to be fetched from API, so we will require glide. Okay. Also, if you notice here, we have used KSP here and also here. Both of them are used with compiler because it analyzes and compiles the Kotlin code. And that's it. Now you can click on sync now. And done. If you face any issue over here, it's probably because of Gradle version is different or Kotlin version is different. So make sure you have exact values. Close all the tabs. Now let's create bottom menu. First, create a menu directory. And inside it, create a menu resource file as bottom navigation menu. And done. Now, as our bottom menu has 3 fragments, remember headlines, favorites, and search. Hence, we will create 3 items. So, first item is headlines fragment as ID. Then title as headlines and icon as headlines. Similarly, I will create for favorites item as well. And then for search item as well. And that's it. Our bottom navigation menu is ready. Next, we will create all the packages and fragments. I'm not going to create all the classes, only fragments and packages. Got it? First package is adapters. This is where we will have our recycler view adapter class. Next package is API. This is where all the retrofit related classes will be. The next package is DB, database. This is where all the room database related classes will be. The next package is models. This is where all the data related classes will be. The next package is repository. This is all a part of the database related class. Then we have next package as util. This is where the resources will be stored. Then last package is UI. This is where main activity, view models and fragments will be. Next, to make the project more readable, I'll rename the main activity to news activity. Always remember to rename using refactor. Use Shift plus F6 for shortcut or through right-click menu. It's like if you rename a variable directly, then only at that particular place the variable name will be changed, and everywhere in the code it will remain the same. That's a very incorrect approach. So instead, go for refactor. So if you rename a variable, it will be changed all over in the project. Got it? Also, don't forget to change layout name as well. And move news activity in UI package. Inside UI only, we will create a separate package for fragments. Like this way. And now inside it, we will have 4 fragments. Article fragment, favorite fragment, search fragment, and headlines fragment. So let me quickly create it. And done. See, we have 4 fragments with their XML layouts as well. I'll quickly remove all the unnecessary code from all the fragments. And done. Close all the tabs. Then next, To fetch or display all the latest news, we will require internet. So obviously we have to take permissions for it, right? So go to Android manifest. Here ask for access network state permission and internet permission. And done. Then next, let's design all the XML layouts. First, let's start with fragment article. I'll copy paste the code and then I'll explain you the elements present in it, okay? And done. Now see, in fragment article, we have used web view. Web view allows you to display the content of website in your app itself. So the entire article will be seamlessly displayed using web view. And then in that article itself, we will have a floating action button. So when the user will click on it, it will add that particular article into the favorites list. Got it? Also, please keep in mind with all the IDs so that you don't get confused while writing the code. Now let's design the favorites fragment as well. Here copy paste the code. And done. See, there is a text view as favorite title. Also, you are supposed to add Poppins font, otherwise it will show you error. How do we add it? Listen to me. Click on the text view. In design, we have attributes. Then search for font family, then scroll for more fonts. And then there search for Poppins regular. And done. Then below it, a recycler view. So whatever we save in our favorites list, it will be displayed in the form of recycler view. And that's it. Now, as we are using internet to display the news, so there are chances of internet connectivity issues or maybe no internet, right? So to handle that, we will create an item layout for all the internet errors, like you can click on the button to refresh it. Hence, I'll create a new layout resource file named as item error. And copy paste the code. And done. Now see, here is a text view which says no internet and a button that says retry. We will handle them logically in the code. Next, go to Fragments headline. I'll copy paste the code. And done. Now see, here we have a text view as headlines title. Then below it a recycler view where all the articles will be displayed. Then if the user has internet problems and recycler view is not able to display news article, then in that case we will include our item error layout which we created before. I hope you are aware with the fact that we can include other layouts using include tag. Then lastly we have a progress bar, as we will be using pagination, which basically loads or display the data or articles one set at a time. So there will be a seconds of gap before displaying another set of articles. Hence, to fill that gap, we will be using progress bar as loading bar. And that's it. Next, go to fragmentsearch.xml. I'll copy paste it. And done. Now here we have a text view as search title. Then below it an edit text that will act as a search bar. And also we have given a background as search border, which we created at the start. And then below it a recycler view that will display all the search resultant. Then here also we will include arrow layout in case user runs out of internet. And then a progress bar to fill that gap during pagination. And that's it. Next, as we have created recycler view, so obviously we will require an item layout for it. So create a new layout resource file. Name it as item news. And done. I'll copy paste the code. And done. Now see, Here we have an image view that will display the article image. Then we have a text view which will display the source of news, basically like the newspaper or the news channel. Then another text view as article title. The next text view represents article description that will display only 2 lines in the recycler view item. The next text view represents article date and time when it was published. And that's it. See, this item layout is for recycler view, not for the article. Article will be displayed on web view the way it will be displayed on the website. We are not providing them with any layout. We are just providing them web view. Got it? I know some people will have confusion about it, so hence it was necessary to clear it. Now moving on to the last XML layout, activity news. This is where fragment container and bottom menu will be attached. So let me copy paste the code. And done. See, we have a frame layout and inside it we have a fragment container view that represents the nav host fragment. As I said, we will be using navigation component from navigating from one screen to another screen, hence we will require nav host fragment. This shows errors because we have not yet created nav graph. We will create it later. Then outside the frame layout, we have bottom navigation view where I have attached bottom menu. And also, if you can notice here, I have attached custom active indicator style as well, which we created in themes, right? It is not shown here, but it will be visible at the runtime. And yeah, that's it. Now let's create nav graph. So create a navigation directory. Then inside it, create a new nav graph. And done. Now look here carefully. We have a nav host present here. Then here add all the destination or fragments. And done. So we have headlines, favorite, search and article. Now the navigation flow goes like this way, that each one of them means headline, search and favorite will eventually open article fragment. Like all of them have a recycler view and all of them have articles in it and all of them will open that articles, right? So flow will go from headlines to article. Same way flow will go from favorite to article. Then same way the flow will go from search to article. And that's it. Easy, right? I'll quickly rename it. And also make sure start destination is headlines fragment. Now with the help of argument tag, we can attach the data to that particular fragment, which we will do it later in the upcoming video. This is all prerequisite, so you must be confused like what is this, what are we doing, but don't worry. You will understand it once you will start writing the code. Alright, now only last thing that is left is API key. Where do we get this API key from? So every API has its own key which is private. You're not supposed to share it with anyone. And with the help of that key, you can access the data. As we want news data, so there are varieties of news API available on internet, out of which we will be using News API. I'll mention the link in the description box. This is how the website looks like. It's free, easy to integrate and widely used. Just to show you, we also have another famous news API called as Gnews. If you want, you can use it too. But as a beginner, follow me. So best part about News API is that it provides with a lot of customization like country, language, publishers or the timings. You will know when we will implement Retrofit. Now let's focus on API key. As a new user, click on Get API Key. Fill in all the details like name, email and password and select I am an individual and submit it. Then at the end, it will provide us with an API key. So make sure to keep it safe and saved. And also you will get the API key on your email too. And that's it. all our prerequisites are done. Now in the upcoming videos, we can write the code without any interference. And that's where the real logic begins. So stay tuned for that, okay? Also, for more updates, you can follow us on Instagram or join our Telegram group. Link in the description box. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with a news app series. In previous video, we have covered prerequisites and XML design. So if you have not yet watched it, I'll highly recommend you to watch that first and then hop onto this video. Now, in this video, we will cover mostly retrofit part like connecting API with our app and converting JSON data and all, okay? But before starting with that, let me give you a quick recap of our previous video. So in our previous video, we have added all the dependencies and plugins in Gradle. Then we have designed all the XML layouts, bottom navigation menu, and nav graph. Then we have added permissions in manifest and also icons in the drawable folder. Then colors, themes, and segregating all the packages. And then last but not the least, we also downloaded our API key from the News API website. And that's it. You can find all the prerequisite source code in the description box. Alright, now let's begin with the logic part. So first open the News API website. Make sure that you are already logged in. Then go to documentation. Now see, we have two options. Either to display all types of news or to display only the top level news. I want to display only top headlines which are popular, hence go to top headlines here. See, it says this endpoint provides live, top and breaking headlines for a country or category. Now listen to me carefully. This is very easy, okay? See, we send requests to API via URL and in response it sends us the result. Simple. This is a request. And this is our result. And also this is our JSON data. Let's quickly do a revision of JSON syntax. This is what it looks like. We have square brackets, that is array, and inside it curly braces, that is our objects. Each object has key and a value separated by colon. And then each object is separated by a comma. Easy, right? Now, in this response, you can see there are objects in it like status, article, source, author, title, description and all. So let's have a look at each response object definition. So first one is status. It checks if the request is successful or not. OK means all good. And if any error occurs, then it will show a code like maybe 404 which denotes web page not found. Then we have total results, which means the number of results available for the request. Then we have articles, which means the news itself. Then inside articles array, we have other objects such as source, author, title and all. Out of which source has two values in it, ID and name of the source. Source means from which newspaper that news came from. Got it? Then we have author, title, description, URL to image, published ad, content. All of these terms you already know. But there are few terms you need to know, like description is like a summarized news and content is the entire news. Then publish at is the date and time of the article when it was published, and URL to image is basically the image converted in a URL format, and that's it. Now we need JSON data, right? But this JSON data can't be read by a compiler, so we need to convert it to data class. So what we will do is open Android Studio, go to Files, then Settings, and then Plugins. Here install a plugin known as JSON to Kotlin class. This plugin will make our work 10 times easier. I'll tell you how. So traditionally we used to create response data class on our own. That is too much of work. But now all we need to do is to go to News API website. Here copy this URL of top headlines. Make sure to exclude get and then paste it. This is what the actual JSON data is. I know it's not formatted, but that's okay because our plugin will do everything for us. So all you have to do is press Ctrl+A and Ctrl+C to copy the entire JSON data. And now come to Android Studio. Here right click, then New, and then Kotlin class from JSON. Click on it. Here paste the entire JSON data which we copied before. See, it's not formatted, so click on this format button. And look, everything is formatted. So now this plugin will take this response and automatically going to generate 3 classes for us. Why 3? Because see here, first class will be for these 3 objects: article, status and total results. Then second class will be for objects that is present in articles. And then third class will be for the objects that is present in source. Got it? Now all of this is response only. So I'll name it as news response. And then I'll click on generate. And see, we have our 3 classes ready. Also, all 3 of them will come under models package, because obviously that is our data, right? Not database. I said data, and data is nothing but model itself. This is news response data class, in which we have articles, status and total results. Here make sure to change the list to mutable list. Mutable means flexible or the values that can be changed later. Then click on article. So you will be redirected to our second class, that is article data class, in which we have other attributes like author, content, description and many more. Then source also has values in it. So click on it and you will be redirected to our third class, that is source data class, in which we have ID and name. And that's it. See, the JSON data code which we copy pasted in plugin, that only retrieves the object from the entire JSON data, not the data itself. Like, I know as a beginner you might have confusion that we are retrieving the entire data, but no, we are not. Instead, the data is live and real time, that is directly provided from the requested URL which we'll be going to use. Got it? Next, as article is a data class, so we need to attach it with its respective fragment in navigation graph. So go to news nav graph. Here in article fragment, we will create an argument tag. And inside it, name as article and argument type as article data class. Copy the reference path and paste it. And that's it. Also, you will face error in name, but that's not your fault. Instead, it's just a bug in Android Studio Giraffe version. So don't worry, it won't affect your code. Next, we need to create few constant values that will never going to change. So for that, create a class under util. Name it as constants. Now inside it, we will create companion object. Companion object is basically a part of the class, so whatever we write in it, that can be accessed anywhere in the class. It's a good practice because there will be few terms that we need to keep using. So we can't write it every time. Instead, just mention it over here and later you can access it anywhere in the code. For example, API key. We will require API key for the URL, right? Hence, we will create a constant value of it as API key and copy paste the API key as it is. Then next is the base URL. Base URL means the website URL of API, not the API URL, okay? So in our case, it is news API. Hence, simply copy paste the news API URL here and done. Then third is search news time delay. As 500 long, which means in a search operation there will be a delay of 500 milliseconds between consecutive search requests. Then next is query page size as 20, which means the number of articles that will be fetched on a single page. And that's it. These are the 4 constants that we will access whenever required. Okay. Next is very important, News API. So inside API package, create an interface, name it as News API, and done. So we have already created our response, and now it's time to create our request, that is our URL. So in API, we need to fetch two kinds of data. First is the top headlines that will be displayed in headlines fragment, and second is everything, means common news for search purpose. Okay. Now to fetch something, we will use get annotation. And inside it, from where to fetch, basically the endpoint of the URL. So in our case, the endpoint is v2/top headlines. So copy paste it. Then we will create a suspend function named as get headlines. And inside it, we need to customize our URL, like from which country we need the news from, or maybe from which particular source we need the news from. Got it? See, these are all the customization, or in technical language, request parameters you can do with the URL. Look over here. Here is the base URL. This is the endpoint. And then from here, after question mark, the customization starts. So we have different request parameters such as API key, which is mandatory. Then we have country customization. These are all the country codes available. Like if I want the news only from India, then I'll use IN. And if I want the news only from USA, then I'll use US code. Got it? There is a list of country code available on the internet, so you can find it accordingly. Then we have categories such as business, entertainment, health, and all. Like, have a look at this one. We have top headlines from the country DE, that is code for Germany, and category as business, and then API key. All this customization is separated using AND operator. Then next we have sources, means from which particular newspaper you want news from. But you can't mix country or category with source while customizing the URL. Got it? Then Q is for the keywords. Like for example, if I write in my URL as Q is equal to stocks, then all the news related to stocks will be displayed. And this Q will be required when we'll create a function for search. Then next is page size, which is the number of results per page that we have already set to 20 as default. Then page is used to go through different pages from the results, only if the page size is greater than its results. Now using all of these parameters, we will create a customized URL of our own, in which we will have an API key, obviously. Then we will have country as US, and then page. Very simple URL. How will we create it? See, as we are customizing the URL, so we will use query annotation here. So I'll write query as country, then create a parameter as country code, and keep the default value as US. Next, I'll create a query for page, and then create a parameter as page number, and keep the default value as 1, which means by default page number 1 will be called. Got it? Then next I'll create another query as API key, and then create an API key parameter, and here mention the default API key value which we created as a constant. And that's it. Lastly, after taking the request, it will return us a response, that is a news response. This response class is used to handle HTTP responses. Similarly, we'll create a customized URL for search as well. But in this case, the fetching of data should not be limited to top headlines. Instead, it should be everything, okay? Then create a suspend function for search. And inside it, query as Q that represents the keyword. and then search query as a parameter. Next query is page, whose parameter will be page number as 1. And then obviously an API key, that is our constant value of API key. And that's it. Again, in return, it will give us a response as news response. And our news API is also ready. Now last but not the least is to set up retrofit. This is easy because it's all syntax only. So under API only, create a new class as retrofit instance. And done. Then inside it, a companion object means whatever we write inside it, it will remain static or fixed values. In our case, it is used to create a singleton instance of retrofit. Now what is singleton? Singleton is a class that is limited to instantiation to a single instance only. Means, in simple words, it can be only instantiated once. Then let me write the code first and then I'll explain you. And done. Now see, what is buy lazy? Buy lazy create a lazily initialized retrofit instance means that the instance will only be created when it's first exists, and then subsequent access will reuse the existing instance. Got it? Then inside it, a HTTP logging interceptor is configured to log HTTP request and response details. Then an OK HTTP client is created with this interceptor. Then finally, a retrofit builder is used to configure the base URL, then JSON factory conversion, then set the OK HTTP client, and lastly build the retrofit instance. Next, I have created another lazy property named as API, which creates an implementation of the news API interface using retrofit instance. And that's it. Our retrofit part is also done. Now in next video, we will cover database part. So stay tuned for that, okay? So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with our news app. In the previous video, we have set up retrofit. So if you have not yet watched it, I'll highly recommend you to watch that first and then watch this video. Now, in this video, we will cover mostly room database part, like creating database and writing queries. Okay? But you will be wondering, why is there a need of room database? Because we'll be saving our favorite news article in the favorite tab, which means we'll be storing the favorite news articles in the database. so that when we open the app for the next time, then all the favorite articles should still be present in the favorite tab. Got it? Now let's begin it. First, go to article. If you remember, this was a JSON data that was converted into article data class, right? Basically, this is our article only, like a template. So when we save an article in favorite, then all the parameters present inside it like author, content, description and all are also saved as stable columns. But very stable. That we will create now. But before that, let me refresh your memory. Room database consists of 3 components: entity, DAO, that is database access object, and database. So entity defines data structure, DAO provides method for data access, and database serves as a main access point. Got it? We will create classes for all 3 of them. So first, let's start with entity. Entity represents a database table including its columns, data types, and primary key. Now, we already have an article data class in which all columns with its data type is present. So all we need is to create an entity, that is database table, and a primary key. So let's create it. First, above article data class, mention entity annotation. And inside it, table name as articles, and done. Then we need to add primary key. For that, we will require a unique column that will be our ID. So first, I'll create an ID as int question mark is equal to null, which means ID can hold an integer value or a null value. Now I'll set primary key on it and make sure to keep auto generate as true, which means that the database will handle generating unique values for it. And that's it. Our entity class is ready. Now let's move to our second component, that is DAO. See, DAO is an interface that provides abstract methods enabling CRUD operations like create, read, update or delete. So let's create it. First, right click on DB package and create a new interface class. Name it as article DAO and done. So here we will implement all the database queries such as insert query, select query and delete query. These are the 3 database operations that we need to perform on the favorite article. Like adding to favorite means insert query, then to display all the favorite articles means select query, then to delete a particular article means delete query. Easy, right? Now let's implement it. Here I will write DAO annotation that will mark the interface as a data access object. And then further, let me write the code first and then I'll explain you, okay? And done. Now see, insert annotation is used for inserting data into the database. Simple, right? Then what is this on conflict? So on conflict strategy dot replace means if there is a conflict, like if same primary key already exists in the table, then the old data will be replaced with the new data. It's basically a safe way of writing code so that we don't face any error in future. Then we have created a suspend function named as upsert that inserts or updates an article in the database. The suspend keyword indicates that this function should be called from a coroutine. Then lastly, it returns long, which typically represents the primary key of the article. Next is to display all the favorite article. So for that I have used query annotation with a query as select star from articles. Articles is the table name. Then I have created a function as get all articles and return type as live data containing a list of all articles in the database. Simple, right? The next is delete annotation. It is used for deleting data from the database. Then again we have created a suspend function as delete article, which will delete an article from the database. And suspend will make sure that the database operations are performed on a background thread. And that's it. Our DAO interface is also ready. Next, again go to article. Here as you can see, int data type is supported by database. Fine. String data type is also supported by database. That is also fine. But source data type is not supported by database because source itself is an object. So what we need to do is to convert it to a data type that is supported by the database. And that is nothing but type converters. Type converters is used to convert complex data types which are not supported by database into a format that is supported by the database. Got it? Hence to do that, first we need to serialize the entire data class. Now what is serialization? Serialization is the process of converting an object into format that can be easily stored or transmitted. So I will write here as serializable. Then we need to create a type converter class. So right click on DB package and create a new class. Name it as converters. Here we need to create two functions, from source and to source. So first let me write the code and then I'll explain you. And done. Now see, to tell compiler it's a converter class, we need to mention type converter annotation here. Then I have created a function as from source which will convert source object into string. Now if you'll see here in source class, there is two values in it, ID and name. Out of which we don't really require ID, but we do require name. So come back to converters class. Here we will convert only source name. This function will be used when storing a source object in the database. Then next function is toSource. Here we will convert name string into source object, which will create a new source object using the provided name. And as we are not using source ID, hence I have mentioned source name twice. Basically, this function will be used when retrieving a source object from the database. And that's it. Now let's move to our room database third component, that is database. Database serves as the main access point and also it defines the database version and entities. So let's create it. Right click on DB package and create a new class. Name it as article database and done. Here we need to create and set up the database. So to tell the compiler it's a database class, here we need to mention database annotation. And inside it, entities as article class and version as 1. then it is very necessary to mention converter class in the database. Hence, I will write here as type converters annotation with its converters class. And done. Now listen to me carefully. We will make this class as abstract class because we will be creating an abstract function in it later. Then, as this is the main access point of the database, so article database will extend room database. Now inside it, I'll create an abstract function as get article DAO, which declares article DAO interface. Abstract function basically has no body in it. Then we will create a companion object. So whatever present inside companion object is static and can be accessed anywhere in the code using its name. Then inside it, it's mostly syntax only. So let me write the code first and then I'll explain you. And done. Now see, volatile annotation ensures that changes made by one thread are immediately visible to other threads. An instance variable holds the singleton instance of the article database or null. Then, this is a lock object which is used to synchronize the database creation process. Basically, this block ensures that only one thread can execute the code inside the block at a time. Got it? Then this is a custom invoke operator for the companion object. Basically, it allows you to create an instance of article database by calling article database context. Invoke function follows the singleton pattern, ensuring that only one instance is created. Then this line checks if the instance is already initialized. If not, then it enters a synchronized block using lock object to ensure that only one thread can create the database instance at a time. Then inside the block, again, it checks if the instance is still null and then creates the database using the create database function. I know you will be wondering why is there a need of invoke operator function and all. Because invoke operator is used for simplicity when creating an instance, and also double tick locking pattern is implemented to ensure thread safety during database creation process. Lastly, I have created a function as create database. It is responsible for creating the article database instance using database builder method. Then it also specifies the database class, database name, that is article_db.db. Then finally build it. And that's it. Our room database part is also done. Now in next video we will set up our adapter. So stay tuned for that, okay? So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with a news app. In previous video, we have set up room database. So if you have not yet watched it, I'll highly recommend you to watch that first and then watch this video. Now, in this video, we will cover adapter and repository part. Okay? So let's create it. Open Android Studio. Right click on repository package and create a new class. Name it as news repository. And done. Now, what's the general meaning of repository? It means a place or a container where something is deposited or stored, right? Same we will be going to do in this news repository with the help of article database and retrofit instance which we created before, okay? So I'll write here as well db and declare article database class. Then inside it, I'm going to create 5 functions. Get headlines function, search news function, upsert function, get favorite news function and delete article function. We have already created these 5 functions, but this time we will call all of them as methods in their respective function. So first we need to call get headlines method that is present in news API with its parameters as country code and page number. So let's create it. And now see, suspend make sure that all this operation is running on background thread. Then we have a function as get headlines with its parameters as country code whose data type is string and page number whose data type is int. And then inside it, I have called the get headlines method which is present in API. And that API is present in retrofit instance. See, if I click on it, it leads me to News API interface. And this News API interface is called in retrofit instance over here. Hence the chain goes like this way. And then all you have to do is pass the arguments. Basically, this function uses retrofit to fetch headlines based on country code and page number arguments. Got it? Then next we need to call search news method that is again present in News API with its parameters as search query and page number. So let me write the code first. And done. Now see here, we have parameters as search query and page number. Then I have called the search for news method from News API through retrofit instance and pass the arguments. Basically, this function uses retrofit to search for news based on search query and page number arguments. The next method that we need to call is upsert function present in article DAO with its parameters as article. So let me write the code first. And done. Now see, I have created an upsert function with its parameters as article and then call the upsert method that is present in article DAO, and that article DAO is present in DB, that is basically an article database. And then we have passed the arguments as article. Okay? See, we are not creating any logic here. We are just calling those methods which we created before. Got it? Then next we will call getAllArticles function which does not have any parameters inside it. So first, let me write the code. And done. Now see, I have created a getFavoriteNews function with no parameters, which is equals to, here I have called the getAllArticle methods that is present in article DAO through article database. Simple, right? Then next we will call deleteArticle function that is present in article DAO with article parameter. So let me write the code first. And now see, here I have created a suspend function as deleteArticle with article as a parameter, which is equals to, here I have called deleteArticle method from article DAO through article database and pass the arguments as article. And that's it. Our news repository is ready. You can press Ctrl and click on this method and do backtracking to know where it comes from. Okay? Next, we need to create an adapter class for our recycler view, which we have used in all three fragments. So to do that, right-click on Adapters package and create a new class. Name it as News Adapter. And done. Here we need to create view holder, then adapter functions, and then on item click listener. So let's create it. First, we need to extend it as recycler view dot adapter, and inside it, news adapter dot article view holder. Then we will create this article view holder class here as inner class article view holder, and constructor parameter as item view, that is view itself. Now, what is inner class? Inner class means they have access to the members of the outer class. Okay? Then it extends recycler view dot view holder and pass the argument as item view. See, the primary purpose of view holder is to hold references to views within an item layout to, avoid repeatedly calling find view by ID. Got it? Then here declare all the UI components that we have used in item news layout. See here, such as article image, article source, and many more. So I'll write here as let init where article image as image view. Then same way I'll declare other components as well. And then see, we have article image, article source, article title, article description, and article date and time. Okay? Next, implement the three members. And done. So we have on create view holder, get item count, and on bind view holder. Let's start with on create view holder. Let me write the code first. And done. See here, at the end it will return article view holder obviously, which means it will return item news layout only, that I have initialized here as layout inflator, inflate as item news layout. Got it? Then next is get item count. But before proceeding with that, we need to set up a diffutil and async list differ. Now, what are these complex words? It's very easy. Basically, both of them are used together to efficiently update the contents of a recycler view without refreshing the entire dataset. At first, it may look very difficult, but it's very easy to understand. So let me write the code first and then I'll explain you. And done. Now see, this is a differ callback implementing diffutil.item callback interface. This interface is used by diffutil to determine the difference between two lists. This method, are items the same, is called to check whether two items represents the same object in the article data class. Here it checks if the URL property of the old and new item is same. Basically, this is used to determine if an item has been moved in the list or not. Similarly, this method R contains the same is called to check whether the contents of two items are same in the article data class. Here it checks if the entire objects are same. Basically, this is used to determine if an item's content has been changed. Then this line creates an async list differ instance using differ callback, which we created, right? Basically, async list differ determine differences between two lists on a background thread, which helps in smooth UI update. And that's it. If you find it very complex, it's okay. Give it some time and also try researching it on your own, okay? Now, let's move to get item count. Here, it will return the size of list, and that list is a part of differ only. So I'll write here as return differ dot current list dot size. And done. Next, let's write the code for onBind view holder. But before that, we need to declare a variable named on item click listener. This variable is a nullable function type that takes an article as a parameter and returns unit. Unit means a function that does not return anything. Basically, this is used to set up a callback for item click events, which we will implement it, okay? Then come inside the onBind view holder. Here we will initialize all the UI components which we declared before. So first let me write the code. and done. Now see, it retrieves the article object at the current position from the list managed by the async list differ. Basically, this is the data that we want to bind to the views. Then we have initialized all the UI components with the help of holder. Let me delete extra. So we have article image, source, title, description and article datetime associated with its UI components. Then I have bind the data with view. Like this are all the view and this are all the data. Okay. Then we have used glide library to load an article from the URL to image into the article image view. Then I have set the source name on the article source view. And similarly for title, description and published ad. Means all the data are set on their respective UI components. Got it? Next, I have set on click listener on the entire item view using item click listener which I created before. So if any of the item above is clicked, then it opens up the article. Lastly, we require this item click listener for all the other fragment recycler view, right? So for that, I'll create a function as set on item click listener. That takes a parameter as listener and then further it takes an article as its parameter and return unit, means return nothing. Then inside it, same on item click listener method which we created before will be assigned to our listener parameter. Basically, this function allows external classes to set their own click handling logic for items in the adapter. Got it? And that's it. Our news adapter class is also ready. Now, next we need to set up a resource class, which is basically a prerequisite for ViewModel. So let's create it. Right click on utils package and create a new sealed class. Name it as resource and now what is sealed class? Sealed class often restricts the hierarchy and in our case, it represents the different states that can occur when fetching the data from a remote source. Got it? Different states as in success state or error state, which we will be using in Fragments and ViewModel later. Okay? So let me write the code first. And done. Now see, we have declared a sealed class as resource with a generic type parameter as t. Then this property holds the data of type t and is nullable. Basically, it represents the result data of the operation. That could be success or error. Then next, we have message variable that is used to store an error message in case of error. Then inside it, we have three classes: success, error and loading. All of them with its parameter as t. So first class is success class, which is a subclass of resource representing the success state. Basically, it has a constructor that takes the data, that is the result data, and passes it to the superclass, that is resource. Then second class is error class, which is also a subclass of resource representing the error state. Basically, it has a constructor that takes an error message and result data and pass them to the superclass, that is resource. Then third class is loading class, which is again a subclass of resource representing the loading state. Basically, it does not have any property. All it does is to indicate the superclass that data is still being fetched. And that's it. I know few concepts were very new to you, so it might look very difficult, and that's completely okay. But once the project is ready, then you will realize why resource class was required, why diffutil was used, and everything. So don't worry about it, okay? Now next video is very important video where we will set up our ViewModel class. So stay tuned for that, okay? So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with the news app. In previous video, we have set up adapter and repository. So if you have not yet watched it, I'll highly recommend you to watch that first and then watch this video. Now, this video is one of the most important video because we will be covering ViewModel and ViewModel Factory part. And also, this is our second last video of the news app series. Okay? So now, let's create it. Open Android Studio. Now, ViewModel is a part of mvvm, that is Model, View and ViewModel. So out of which we have already created Model, then we are about to create ViewModel, and then View we will be creating in next video. Got it? I have already explained mvvm in detail in one of my previous video which you can watch by clicking on the I button. But still, let me quickly refresh your memory. See, View manages all the UI related activities such as design part or handling UI components in fragments or in activity. Then Model manages all the data related activities such as to set up database, maybe from local data source such as room database or remote data source such as Retrofit. And then ViewModel manages all the UI related data activities. Basically, it acts as a mediator between View and Model for communication. Not just that, but it also manages all the logical part. And that's it. Now come back to Android Studio. Here in UI package only, we will create a ViewModel class. If you want, you can create a new package for it, okay? So right click on UI package and create a new class. Name it as News ViewModel. And done. Here we have to create literally 10 functions. I know it's quite a lot, but this is where the real logic begins. Don't worry, it's super duper easy to understand if you know little bit about ViewModel. Okay? So now let's create it step by step. First step is to declare all the required variables. I'll write variable as headlines whose data type is mutable live data. That holds a resource class which we created before and news response for displaying headlines. Then I'll create another variable as headlines page to track the current page number for the headline pagination. And then another variable as headlines response to store the last received response for headlines. Next, I'll write search news variable as mutable live data. Again, same resource of type news response for displaying search results. Then, search news page variable to track the current page number for search result pagination. Then, search news response variable to store the last received response for search results. Then new search query variable to store the new search query. And then old search query variable to store the previous search query. And that's it. Next, we will add parameters as application and news repository. And extend it as Android ViewModel. Now we will create our first function as handle headline response. So let me write the code first. And done. See, first it checks if the network request was successful. If successful, then increment the headlines page. If headlines response is null, then assign it the value of result response. Otherwise, merge the new articles with the existing articles in headlines response. Then return a resource success containing the updated headline response. But if the network request was not successful, then return a resource error with the error message from the response. Next, we will create another function as handle search news response in a similar manner. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, again it checks if the network request was successful. If successful, then check if search news response is null or if the search query has changed. If true, then reset the page count to 1. Then update the search query and assign the result to search news response. Else, increment the page count and merge the new articles with the existing one in search news response. Then return a resource success containing the updated search news response. And lastly, if the network request was not successful, then return a resource error with error message from the response. Simple. Next, we will create another function as add to favorite. So let me write it. And done. This function takes an article as a parameter, representing the article to be added to favorites. Then ViewModel scope.launch is a coroutine builder used within a ViewModel to launch a coroutines. That is automatically cancelled when the ViewModel is cleared or destroyed. Basically, it helps to manage the coroutine lifecycle. Then lastly, I have called a function upsert on news repository that will update or insert an article. Next, I have created another function as get favorite news. there is no parameter in it. All we have to do is to call getFavoriteNews method from news repository. And that's it. Then I'll create another function as deleteArticle, very similar to addFavorite function. But here we will call deleteArticle method from news repository. And done. Next, I'll create another function as internet connection that will check if our device has active internet or not. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, connectivity services retrieves the system service for connectivity and cast it to a connectivity manager. Then get network capability gets the network capabilities of the currently active network. Then I have wrote dot, that is save call operator, and run extension function to execute the specific block only if the expression on the left is non-null. And if get network capabilities is null, then the entire expression evaluates to false. So when expression checks the network capabilities and returns true if any of the specified transport types such as Wi-Fi, cellular or Ethernet is available. But if none of the specified transport types are available, then it returns false. And that's it. Next, we will create another function as headlines internet, which will check internet connection specifically for headlines page. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, we have a suspend function headlines internet that fetches headlines based on country code. Then resource loading post a loading state to the headlines live data indicating that a network request is in progress. And then it checks if there is an internet connection using the internet connection function which we created before. If there is an internet connection, then response will store the headlines fetched from the repository and post the result to headlines live data after processing the response. But if there is no internet connection, then post an error state to the headlines live data. Then catch keyword catches any exception that might occur during the network request. And when expression handles a specific type of exception like IO exception, indicating unable to connect, or for any other type of exception, it posts an error indicating no signal. Next, we will create another function as search news internet that will handle internet connection specifically for search news. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, search news internet function is similar to headlines internet function. So this line updates a new search query variable with the provided search query. Then resource loading posts a loading state to the search news live data indicating that a network request for search news is in progress. Then it checks if there is an internet connection using internet connection. So if there is an internet connection, then it fetches search news from the repository based on search query and posts the result to the search news live data after processing the response. But if there is no internet connection, then it posts an error state to search news live data as no internet connection. Then catch block is same as previous function. And done. Next function is get headlines. Whose parameter is country code. Then launch the ViewModel scope, and inside it, call the headlines internet method, which we created before, and pass the argument as country code. Same way, create another function as search news, whose parameter is search query. And inside it, call search news internet and pass the argument as search query. and done. Then last thing is to call getHeadlines method, which we created just now inside init block. And pass the argument as US as the country code. And that's it. Our ViewModel class is ready. Next is to create ViewModel Provider Factory. So right click on UI package and create a new class as News ViewModel Provider Factory. And done. So here I'll pass the parameters as application, news repository, then extend it as ViewModel Provider .factory. Now, what is ViewModel Provider Factory? Basically, ViewModel Factory is a class that instantiate and return ViewModel. Simple. And then inside it, let me write the code first. And done. So this function is required to create an instance of the ViewModel class. Basically, it overrides the create method from the ViewModel Provider Factory interface. Then inside it, it returns a new instance of the news ViewModel by passing the application and news repository instances to its constructor. This ast is used to ensure that the return instance matches with the generic type T which we called before. And that's it. Our news ViewModel Provider Factory is also ready. Next, go to News Activity. Here we will set up ViewModel Provider Factory as well as nav controller. So first let me declare News ViewModel. And done. Then let me quickly set up binding. And done. Now first is to set up ViewModel. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, we are creating an instance of news repository by providing it with an article database instance. Means news repository class requires an article database as a dependency. Then we are creating another instance of custom news ViewModel Provider Factory by passing the application and previously created news repository. Then lastly, we are using the ViewModel provider to create an instance of news ViewModel. Then this parameter indicates the news activity itself. And then ViewModel Provider Factory is used to create the instance. And that's where we specify the class of ViewModel we want. That is our news ViewModel. And that's it. Basically, this setup ensures that news ViewModel is created with the appropriate dependencies such as news repository and the article database. And also the use of ViewModel Provider Factory allows you to provide the custom logic for creating a ViewModel instances, which can be beneficial at the time of testing. Now, next is to set up nav controller on our bottom navigation view which we created before. So let me write the code. And done. Now see, we are finding the name host fragment using its ID, news name host fragment, from the support fragment manager. And as name host fragment cast is used to obtain a reference to the name host fragment instance, then we are retrieving the name controller associated with the name host fragment. Basically, the name controller is responsible for handling navigation within the fragment. And then lastly, we are setting up the nav controller using setup with nav controller on bottom navigation. So basically, it will be aware of all the navigation action defined in a nav graph. It's like when you select an item in the bottom navigation, then it triggers the corresponding navigation action in our app. And that's it. Our news activity is also ready. Now in next video, we will set up our fragments. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue with the news app. In previous video, we have set up ViewModel. So if you have not yet watched it, I'll highly recommend you to watch that first and then watch this video. Now in this video, we will be covering fragments. And also, this is our last video of the news app series. Okay? So now, let's create it. Open Android Studio. We have already created all the fragments. That is article fragment, headlines fragment, favorite fragment, and search fragment. So first, let me quickly remove all the unnecessary code from all the fragments. Like this way. And done. I'll do the same thing for other 3 fragments as well. And done. Now let's start with article fragment. First, I'll mention the XML layout file here. Then inside it, we need to implement 3 things. Declare variable, override onViewCreated function, and set up floating action button. Got it? But listen to me. As this is an article fragment, so here an entire article will be displayed in a web view. Hence, we will write the code for web view, which will be present in onViewCreated function. So first, let's declare all the variables. Okay, so all your responses, API, everything is connected in ViewModel only. So it's a must to declare news ViewModel. Then if you remember in part 3, I guess we have created an argument tag in news nav graph inside article fragment. That we need to access here as well arguments. Then article fragment arg. This is an automatically generated class by Safe Arguments plugin. Basically, it will help to pass arguments between fragments in a safe way. Then by nav args means nav arg, navigation arg, is an extensive function provided by navigation component and it is used to retrieve the argument passed to a fragment. So whenever we will use args in the code, it means that we are accessing the arguments passed to the fragment. Got it? Then next we will create an override function as onViewCreated, where we will initialize our view. So for that we will use binding. So let me quickly set it up. And done. This is how we declare and initialize binding in Fragments. Got it? Now inside onViewCreated, we will set up web view. So to do that, first we need to initialize News ViewModel. And done. Then I'll initialize article variable as args.article. This article is the name given to the argument. Then call the web view through binding and use apply function. Then inside the apply block, here we will set the web view client for the web view. So web view client is responsible for handling various events in the web view, such as when a new URL is about to be loaded. Then article.url with a save call operator and the let function. Basically, the let function is used here to execute a block of code on the non-null, that is article URL safely. Then inside the let function, load URL and argument as it means article fragment itself, and then now below it I'll set onClick on fab, which will add the article to favorites. In technical language, it will insert the favorite article in the database. Got it? So first access fab through binding, then set onClick listener on it, and then inside it we need to call add to favorite method, which we created in ViewModel. So for that I'll write news ViewModel dot add to favorite method and pass the argument as article. Simple. Then to inform the user that article has been added to the favorite, we will create a snack bar. If you want, you can simply create a toast as well, not a problem. And that's it. Our article fragment is ready. Now next we need to create headlines fragment. There is a lot of code to write here. Basically, here we will set our recycler view with all the articles fetched from API. Not just that, but we also need to handle pagination as well as progress bar and error message. So first let's declare all the variables. And done. See, we have news view model, news adapter, then we have retry button and error text. Both of this UI component is a part of item error layout. And that item error layout is accessed in fragment headlines as item headlines error. So in case of any internet error, this UI components will be used. Got it? Then I will override onViewCreated function. And inside it, let me quickly set a binding. And done. Then inside onViewCreated function, we need to initialize as well as to fetch data from API through live data. But to do that, we will require few functions. So outside onViewCreated function, we will create other required functions, and then later we will call all those functions inside onViewCreated. Got it? Before creating those functions, we will require few boolean variables such as is error as false, is loading as again false, then is last page also as false, and then is scrolling also as false. And done. We will use all these variables in functions. So let's create our first function as hide progress bar. There will be a situation where we will require to hide the progress bar once the loading is done. So for that, call pagination progress bar dot visibility as invisible. then is loading as false. And done. Next, we will create another function as show progress bar, where we will display the progress bar. This will be the situation where our data is getting fetched, and in that situation we will require a loading or a progress bar. Hence here I'll keep is loading as true. The next function is hide error message. This will be required when internet is working perfectly fine, and hence we will keep the error messages invisible. The next function is show error message. This will be required in case of any error where error message will be displayed on the screen. Got it? Next, we need to set up pagination. I have already explained what is pagination, but still, it helps you load and display small chunks of data at a time. So to create it, write well scroll listener as object and extend it as recycler view dot on scroll listener. Now inside it, there will be two methods: on scrolled and on scroll state changed. On scroll method will be called after the scroll is completed, and on scroll state change method will be called when the scroll state changes. So first let me write the code for on scroll method. and done. Now see, we have an error over here because query page size should be integer. Hence, it should be not in double quotes. So remove it. Also, same goes for this one too. And now see, error is gone. Then this block retrieves the linear layout manager from the recycler view and gathers information about first visible item, the count of visible item and the total item count. Then it defines several conditions like is no error and is not loading and not last page. That must be satisfied for pagination to occur. Then based on these conditions, it determines whether pagination should happen. If should paginate is true, then it triggers the getHeadlines method of the news view model and updates the state by setting its scrolling to false. And done. Then let me quickly write on scroll state change method as well. And done. Now see, the new state parameter represents the new scroll state. Then scroll state touch scroll indicates that the user is currently dragging the screen, causing recycler view to scroll. Then if the condition is true, then it sets the is scrolling to true. And done. Next we will set up headlines recycler view. We have already created an adapter for it. So all we have to do is to attach it with the layout. First let me write the code. And done. Now see, again an error, but it's a silly mistake of brackets. So rearrange it this way. Then first we have created an instance of news adapter that will bind the data to the recycler view. Then this is the ID of recycler view present in headlines fragment, that is recycler headlines, and then apply on it. Inside the apply block, we have set the linear layout manager as layout manager for the recycler view. This means that the items in the recycler view will be arranged in a vertical scrolling list. Then I have added the scroll listener to the recycler view for pagination. And done. Now come inside the on view created. Here we need to initialize few things. So first is item headlines error that is present in headlines fragment only. Then next we need to initialize retry button and error text that is present in item error XML, right? So to access that we need to inflate the respective layout here. So let me write the code. And done. See, this is how we inflate another layout in Fragment. So this is our item error layout. Now once we have the layout, then we can easily initialize retry button as well as error text. and done. Next, we will attach the news view model to an activity like this way. Okay. And don't forget to call setup headlines recycler below it. And done. Then next we'll set on item click listener, means what will happen when the user will click on recycler view item. It will lead the user to article web view, right? So let me write the code. And done. Now see, we have set on item click listener on news adapter. Then inside it, a bundle is created when an item is clicked. And then inside it, serializable with the key article is added to the bundle. And it is the item clicked. Got it? Then outside the apply block, there is a nav controller which will navigate the user from headlines fragment to article fragment with bundle containing the serialized article. And done. Next, we need to create few conditions like if the response is success, then what are we supposed to do? Or if the response is error, then what are we supposed to do? Or if the response is in loading state, then what we are supposed to do? That we have to mention in the observer. First thing, what will it observe? Headlines, right? So news view model dot headlines dot observe with its parameter as view, lifecycle owner, comma, observer, and variable as response. Then inside it, when response is success or error or loading, these are the three conditions. So let me write the code for it. And done. First, if the response is success, then obviously hide the progress bar and also hide the error message. Then save call operator to check if the response data is not null. And if it is not null, then let function is invoked. And that non-null value will be our news response variable. Then this line updates the data in the news adapter by submitting the list of articles from the news response to the adapter. Got it? Then this line calculates the total number of pages based on the total number of results and the page size. Also, I have added +2 to provide some buffer. Then this line checks if the current page, that is headlines page, is the last page by comparing it with the calculated total pages. And if it is the last page, then adjust the padding of the recycler view. And done. Next, let me write the code. and done. Now, if the response is error, then hide the progress bar. Then again, same way, check if response message is not null, and if it is not null, then let function is invoked. And that non-null value will be our message variable. Then inside it, I'll write a toast as sorry error and whatever the message is. Then below it, I'll call show error message method and pass the argument as message. Next, if the response is loading, then simply show a progress bar. Then come outside the observe. Here we'll set on click listener on retry button. So let me write the code first. And done. See, it's like if there is no internet, then this retry button will be shown, right? So if the user will click on retry button, once the internet is available, then it will display all the headlines using getHeadlines method from news view model with country code as US. And that's it. Our headlines fragment is also ready. Next, let's go to favorite fragment. Here, 4 important things. First is to display all the favorite articles that is saved in the database. Second is to make sure that if the user clicks on an item, then it should navigate to that particular article only. Third, the article should be deleted if the user swipe left on it. And fourth, user can undo its delete action. Got it? So let's implement it step by step. First is to declare all the necessary variables such as news view model and news adapter. Then override onViewCreated function, and inside it, let me quickly set up fragment binding. And done. Next, to display all the favorite articles, most of the code will be similar to the previous code from headlines fragment. So whichever one will be same, we will simply copy paste it. So first, let's start with favorite recycler view setup. Come outside the onViewCreated, and here create a new function as setup favorite recycler. And inside it, copy the code from here and paste it here. Now, here we don't require scroll listener, so remove this line. And also here it will be recycler favorite, not recycler headlines, right? And done. Then inside onViewCreated, copy the code from here and paste it here. Now see, obviously instead of set headlines recycler, it will be favorite recycler. And then set on item click listener will be as it is, except that it will navigate from favorite fragment to article fragment. Then we don't require item error layout, so remove all this line. And done. Then next we need to set up swipe left feature. So focus. First we will create a class item touch helper callback. And extend it as item touch helper dot simple callback. Then inside it I'll pass 2 parameters. Up and down will allow vertical movement, and left and right will allow horizontal movement. Got it? Then inside it we will have 2 override functions. OnMove, which will return true, and onSwipe. So let me write the code first. and done. Now see, onMove function is invoked when an item is dragged from the recycler view, and return true means moving item is allowed but we don't require it. Then onSwipe function is invoked when an item is swiped either to left or right. Then it takes the position of the swiped item in the adapter, then retrieves the associated article from the current list in the adapter. Later, it removes the article from the favorite database, and then displays a snack bar as removed from favorite with an action as undo. So in case of undo, it will add that particular article back to favorites. Then show will display it, and done. At the end, we will create an instance of item touch helper with the item touch helper callback and apply on it. Then inside the apply block, I'll attach the item touch helper to the recycler view, and done. Lastly, we will create a get favorite news method from the news view model using live data that represents a list of favorite news articles. Then set up an observer on the object with its two parameters as view lifecycle owner, which is used as lifecycle owner only. Then observer will be triggered whenever the data held by the live data changes. And finally, inside the callback, the new list of favorite articles is submitted to the news adapter. And that's it. Our favorite fragment is also ready. Now it's time for our last fragment, that is search fragment. There is a lot of code here as well, but it's very similar to headlines fragment. So we'll do a little bit of copy pasting, okay? Now let's create it. First, we will declare all the necessary variables. Let's start with view model, then adapter, then declare all the error UI components, retry button, error text, and item search error. Then override on view created. And inside it, let me quickly set a binding. And done. Next, outside on view created, we will create same functions which we created in headlines fragment, like hide progress bar or show error message and all. So copy all the 4 functions with its variable. And paste it here. And done. Make sure to change the variable name. Then again we want pagination on search as well. So we will use the same code as we used in headlines for pagination. So let me copy paste it. And done. I have already explained the code in headlines fragment. Here we have 2 methods in it, on scroll and on scroll state change. Everything will be same only except the input. See here, headlines was retrieving get headlines from the news view model, and here it will be retrieving search news keyword from the edit text through news view model. Then next we need to set up search recycler view. Again it will be same except the IDs. So let me copy paste it. And done. Make sure to change ID as recycler search and this as search fragment. And done. Make sure to add missing brackets. Now come inside on view created. Here again we will copy paste and done. Make sure to change the IDs. Then this as setup search recycler, and this as search fragment to article fragment. And then next we need to set up coroutines. So let me write the code first. And then this job is a coroutine job that can be used to manage the lifecycle of a coroutine. Then this sets up the text change listener on the search edit view. Basically, it listens for the changes in the text of the edit text. Then if there is an existing coroutine job, it cancels it. Basically to prevent from multiple overlapping coroutines. Then it launches a new coroutine within the main coroutine scope. Then inside it, there is a delay of search news time delay milliseconds before executing the code inside the coroutine. It will suspend the coroutine for the specified time period. Then editable is a safe call combined with let function. It checks if the editable is not null and then executes the code inside the let block. Later, it checks if the text is editable, is not empty. If it is not empty, then it calls search news to perform search operation based on the keyword entered in the edit text. Then next, we need to observe search news through ViewModel. So let me quickly copy paste it. And then remember we have a situation where if response is success, then this action will be performed. And if response is error, then this actions will be performed. And if response is loading, then this actions will be performed. Got it? Then obviously change it to search news. Then this one as search news page. Also change this ID as recycler search. Make sure to import observer. And done. Last thing is to set on click listener on retry button. This one is different, so let me quickly write the code. And done. Now see, if the internet is not available, then it will show a retry button. So if the user will click on it, following actions will be performed. If search edit text is not empty, means keyword is present, then search news from the news view model, else simply hide the error message. And that's it. Our search fragment is also ready. And now it's time for moment of truth. Let's run the app. I'll highly recommend you to run the app on device, not on emulator. Here it is. But it's not displaying any news, so let me check what's the issue and then I will let you know. I am back. Very silly mistake, we have not mentioned the XML layouts in the fragments, like this way. We will do it for other fragments as well. And done. Now see, we have latest news displaying on the screen. Then if I click on any of the article, it will open in web view. See, you can literally read entire article here. Also, if I click on this favorite button, it will add the article into favorite fragment. See, here it is. Now we can also remove it by swiping left. And see, the article is removed from favorite and also add it back using undo. Not just that, but we can also search any keyword in search fragment. And see, here it is, all the results with the same keyword. And that's it. Also, there will be few articles which will throw error or crash because they might be null. So take care of that. Otherwise, it will work perfectly fine. And with that said, our news app series is completed. Now for your convenience, I'll be releasing source code of the news app series soon. So if you're facing any error, then you can simply compare your code with the source code, okay? Also, for more updates, you can follow us on Instagram or join our Telegram group. Link in the description box. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.